Explain VenturePact, what it is, and what really the goal of the company is.
Sure. So we think of ourselves as, like, the way we like to call us is like, we are your development team. So whoever you are, you could be a marketing person at a company, you could be the CEO, you could be an entrepreneur, whoever you are, we are your development team. And we think that by providing people with access to great development teams, we can empower them to use technology and better leverage it to improve the way they serve their customers, to optimize the way they operate, so it can completely change the way people can leverage tech.
So a lot of this, in some respects, is outsourcing, correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, the talent you're sourcing is outside of the company, and I think one of the things people have is a very negative stigma with the word outsourcing, and what does that even mean, and how does it work? And so what we found was that the real two key parts of outsourcing technology is that you need great tech talent, and you need a great way to communicate and work with them. And if you can do those two things right, then you can use tech to accelerate your business, as opposed to trying to outsource tech and end up slowing you down.
Why so much the negative connotation with outsourcing? Because it seems like, especially the last couple of years, with how companies have kind of changed their view on a lot of things. Obviously, some companies have really pared down their payrolls, and they've been enforced to outsource for a variety of things. So I would think that maybe if there is that negative connotation, it's starting to change a little bit.
Yeah, I think it is starting to change. It takes time, and I think the main reason it's changing is kind of out of force, as you mentioned. It's like, they're constrained on cash flow. The supply of tech talent in your local city is also constrained.
Yeah.
But I think the main reason is that there's been a lot of stories of people who have failed outsourcing. People have had horror stories, and it's mainly because when you're outsourcing software, or especially web and mobile development, you end up seeing that the prices are high, and a lot of times people start to say, oh, I want to go offshore and I want to find talent offshore, which for people with constrained budgets is fine.
Yeah.
But the main question is well, if I do take talent that's outside of the U.S. and I'm trying to hire them, how do I know if I'm hiring the right person? How do I know how to manage them and work with them? And if you don't have experience working with remote talent, it quickly starts to fall apart. And so that's the main problem.
So software development is obviously a big area right now, especially with apps. I mean, I don't think you go another day without 100 new apps being put in either the Google Store or Apple Store. But it's interesting. So in terms of the talent that you have working for you that ends up going to work for others, are you recruiting, obviously, I would imagine, actively in a variety of different sources, locations, schools, whatever it might be?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so we're very active, and we partner with development teams. So we aren't hiring them in-house full-time. So we're partnering with dev teams all around the U.S. We're constantly traveling, and outside of the U.S. also. So we've traveled all around Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia. We have developers in, obviously, South America and all over North America. And we've just been spending our last few years really understanding these local markets, these different cities, and how they hire talent, how they train talent, their education systems, so we can better vet and screen for the best technologists.
And obviously, this is an area of growth that is just incredible right now, because, as we said, the need for software developers is unbelievable right now.
Yeah, and it's only growing, and that's the whole problem. It's the need for tech is growing, and we just see that every company is becoming a technology company.
Yeah.
But not every company knows how to use tech into its full potential, and that's what we're trying to help them get there.
But are there enough people following that path and going into software development? Are we seeing a little bit of a down in terms of the numbers of people getting into that area?
I think the companies are starting to see the need, and they have the demand, and they're trying to hire for it. The supply of quality tech talent isn't there. It's mainly because of education systems not being structured for computer science.
Okay.
And so, computer science in the future, we'll think of it the same way we think of reading and writing today. And so that has to start from K1 through 12, as opposed to you've been working for 15 years and you decide, oh, I need to take a 2-month class in computer science. That doesn't really get you to the point where you're a really highly skilled developer.
So this is a fundamental shift you're talking about in terms of our education system as a whole, and not only here in the United States, but probably in many other countries as well, that you need to have more of an impetus to have that understanding of computer technology. A lot of people have talked about, should kids learn coding? you know, at an early age, and a lot of people say, yeah, they should.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's, when I think of building products and development, I think there's two key things, right? The first is the actual ability to code, and the second is like the ability to manage these developers and manage like go through the whole product development process. And while learning how to code and be an amazing developer obviously takes a lot of time, learning how to manage and work with developers doesn't take that much time, and that's what we spend our time on, is how do we educate and work with companies that haven't built software before, don't know how to build web and mobile apps. How do we get them to a point where they're comfortable managing and leading these tech teams who are really good coders? So we have been able to really help alleviate the access to tech talent problem. And now it's about educating and teaching these companies, like, what are your biggest problems? How are you going to leverage software? Let's explain to you how to manage these teams. And now you kind of become empowered and you can use tech and use the power of technology.
But even with the growth that we've seen in this sector over the last, decade, 2 decades, you're saying that there's still a lack of understanding on the part of some companies, maybe not all, but of some companies, just to not understand the importance to put on your software and your tech and that whole process, security as well in it.
Oh, 100%. I think many companies have this problem. I mean, if you just look at businesses, they spend their time looking at how they operate and optimizing their operations, and then looking at how they serve their customer and how to better serve their customers. And technology can do so much in both these areas, and very few companies are leveraging this to their full potential. And it's mainly because software has changed a lot. Like, even just web and mobile development has changed a lot in the last 10 years. So,
seems like it's changed in the last hour.
Exactly. And it's just changing, and that makes it even harder to hire because, before '07, there was no such thing as an mobile iOS or mobile Android developer, and now it's suddenly that's what everyone wants. And it used to be Ruby used to be the thing, and now Node.js and all these different new technology, like tech languages, are growing, and they keep changing. So it just makes it harder for people to fully understand the power of these languages. Not necessarily, obviously, we don't expect every manager, every leader to know and understand exactly how they work. They just need to think about how can we leverage this.